see the screen? Yes, okay. So once again, good evening. And on behalf of Professor Sazali Abidin, my co-author, I'm very proud to, very honored to present our paper on the asymmetric effect of external financing on earnings management between developed and developing countries. So this is the outline of my presentation. I will start by motivation. So we've seen that research on international earning management that incorporate firm level characteristics is extremely limited. To the best of our knowledge, there have been no studies that shows that relying on external financing, especially equity financing, is related to earning management. Therefore, our paper extends the previous study by introducing the reliance on external financing, which could significantly affect the corporate earning management. We also construct new variables to address the issue and try to present robust evidence that external financing induce earning management. Firm manage earnings to improve the financing condition that are subject to information asymmetry. So these facts naturally give rise to a prediction that firms going to the external capital market would engage in earning management. To the best of our knowledge, however, there are only few studies to address the issue. And so our paper will attempt to fill this research gap by using international data from developing countries and also developed countries. We would present evidence of information asymmetry-based explanation of corporate earnings management. So firm manage earnings to improve the financing condition. They're subjects to information asymmetry. So here are bits of our literature review. So we see that the pecking orders theory suggests that firms prefer internal funds to finance their investment opportunity rather than going to the external financing. We also look at the growing companies as well as mature company by D'Angelo, saying the growing companies have an incentive to manage earnings to improve financing condition that they need to go to the external capital market to finance their good investment. However, in contrast to the mature company, that have high retained earnings, to total equity ratio wouldn't do so. Firms audited by international Big Four auditors tend to have low level of earning management. We see that foreign investors are subject to severe information asymmetry. Therefore, in emerging markets, the US mutual fund actually invests heavily in firms with high accounting transparency. Therefore, the newly privatized firms are more likely to appoint the Big Four as they're owned by foreign investors. Several single country analysis find that company increases earning management during the IPO and season equity offerings. Firms also issuing bonds are likely to manage their reporting earning as well. So we have one hypothesis, which is firms that rely on external financing are likely to engage in earning management than firms that rely on internal financing. For data methodology, we actually examined the effect of firms' external financing on earning management by using data from 4,595 firms located in 12 countries, being developed and developing countries. So we also used two individual measures of earning management in international data setting, which is the magnitude of accrual and the smoothness of earning. And the reasons being this variable, which measure the outcome of the firm economic process, would capture reporting choices of insiders rather than the operating characteristic of firms. Also, the country ranking upon these variables are consistent with widespread perception of the amount of information in earning. So according to Deschaux and Skinner, earning can be temporarily inflated by accrual even if the firms do not perform very well. So the first earning management measure, EM1, is the absolute value of accrual scaled by the absolute value of operating cash flow. So these ratios suggest a more earning management. So for each company, we compute the time series of this ratio as a variable for earning management. The procedure also generates one observation for each single company. We also calculate the standard deviation of a company's operating income to its standard deviation of operating cash flow and take the reciprocal of this ratio. Thus, the high value indicate large income smoothing, EM2. So we also have one observation of EM2 for every single company. In order to reduce the error between EM1 and EM2, we calculate an aggregate measure and adopt it as dependent variable in the empirical analysis. So we have chosen 6 developed countries to conduct the study, including Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Singapore, UK, and the US. So due to the time constraint, I will just briefly touch on them. So for instance, we're looking at the Big Four, and we can see that only firms in New Zealand and Canada have the highest percentage of the Big Four utilization, whereas the others are not so much. It's interesting to see in this table that for the developed countries, including Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, and Peru, except for Egypt, they have all utilized Big Four to audit their firms. So we're now looking at the regression result of earning management, whereby the 1 star indicate 10% of importance, 2 star 5%, and 3 stars would be 1%. So here we can see that there's a significant positive correlation between external to internal capital ratio and EM scoring from all estimations. Foreign ownership has a negative and dramatic coefficient, which is consistent with our prediction that foreign investors who belong to serious information asymmetry will require its investee companies to offer open and transparent information. Equity financing is more sensitive to information asymmetry than debt financing, and thus equity issuers have stronger incentive to manage reported earnings than debt issuers do. So the first stage regression result show that the external to internal capital ratio is positively related to the percentage asset growth and the country industry median of the external to internal capital ratio. It also indicates that large firms with poor performance depend on external financing, where large firms are subject to less information asymmetry and thus conduct external financing in less costly manner. Firms with poor performance, on the contrary, would need to go to the external capital market because of the small internal fund. The second stage regression indicate that the endogenous external to internal capital ratio have positive and significant coefficient. So this is consistent with our former OLS result, and the needs of external financing encourage firms to engage in earning management. So overall, the results show that the positive relation between the reliance on external financing and earning management is not driven by the endogeneity of external to internal capital ratio. So unlike the form of the result, ASDI, foreign owned, and the Big Four have a negative and significant coefficient. So in conclusion, developing countries tend to have a higher external to internal capital ratio, indicating the strong reliance on external financing. The country data level produce the positive correlation between earning management and external financing. This result is consistent with our previous hypothesis that firms rely on external financing are likely to engage in earning management than firms that rely on internal financing. So it's evident that earning management is positively associated with the degree to which the firm relies on external financing. The positive effect of external financing on earning management is mainly attributable to equity financing rather than debt management. We also find that the anti-self-dealing index, ASDI, foreign-owned, the Big Four auditing are also negatively related to earning management. We see that there is a potential study, a follow-up study is that firms that are subject to information asymmetry depend less on external financing, as well as manage earnings more. So thank you, and this is the end of my presentation. Looking forward to the feedback.
That's great, thank you. Have we got a discussant?
Morning from Greece. Just a minute, my screen. Okay. The authors explored the effect of corporate external financing on earnings management. The paper is well crafted and adequate in terms of methodology. Results suggest that there is a positive relationship between earnings management and external to internal capital ratio. Furthermore, developing countries have higher external to internal capital ratio than developed countries. The results are robust with different definition of external to internal capital ratio, and furthermore, the results are unaltered with different regression models and when the authors addressed endogeneity issues. Having said that, I think that the paper needs further improvement in the direction of the following comments. In the introduction, authors said that to the best of our knowledge, there have been no studies shown that the reliance on external financing is related to earnings management. Prior studies find that the use of external financing can drive firm managers to engage in earnings management. I have some papers here, Journal of Financial Economics, Journal of Accounting and Economics, that explore this topic. Furthermore, the following paper of Young and Toll directly explore the relationship between external financing activities and earnings management. As regards the literature review, the paper should provide a critical discussion of the relevant literature and clear hypothesis. Why should external financing affect or not affect the earnings management procedure? What is the role of risk propensity? The rest of the literature is well documented. As regards the methodology and the research design, the paper adopts two measures of earning management. First, the magnitude of accruals, and second, the smoothness of earnings, which are transferred into scores that range from 0 to 100. The alternative measurements of the K variables provide the ability to test the robustness of the results. The financial data covers 4,500 non-financial companies from 12 countries. And I have some comments as regards the methodology. I have some concerns about the methodology and the employed variables because the authors run cross-sectional regression models using the mean value of each variable from the whole sample period. Namely, as X-fin1 variable ratio is used the firm's time series mean of the total term interest-bearing debt and capitals from common stocks divided by retained earnings. Similar the variable equity fin. Because of the enlarged sample period from 2002 to 2018, which includes economic crisis, macroeconomic volatility, year time effects, and other significant event shocks, I think first that using one value for the whole period, it is not a representative variable for the regression analysis, and second that the mean values of the employed variables are probably be significantly different in more specific periods, like pre-crisis, during crisis, and after the crisis period. Therefore, the regression results based on the assumption that the mean external financing of the whole period affect the mean earnings management score and therefore may have limited explanatory power. I propose just to recalculate the mean variables and rerun regression model using data in more cohesive periods. As regards the results, authors said in the table 2 that table 2 clearly shows that the external to internal capital ratio significantly differ across developed countries and developing countries. This table only presents the descriptive statistics for the sample. I propose to use an econometric test, such as t-test, Mann-Whitney U-test, in order to statistically compare the mean and the median values of external financing, of earnings management score, and of other variables between the developed and the developing countries. I have some comments in the correlation matrix, but I see the results in the table 4. The author presents the regression results using different model specification, OLS, country fixed effect, and different external financing variables, which are good practices in order to enhance the robustness of the results. Indeed, the main results are robust. However, the R-square values for all the regression models are relatively low. R-square is 0.004. Due to low levels of R-square, I have some concerns regarding the multivariate analysis. Specifically in the regression tables 4 and 5, the authors didn't present the F-statistic value of the regression models, which provides a signal for the overall significance in the regression analysis. Because the main argument of the paper is the differences in the relationship between earnings management and external financing between developed and developing countries, I propose first to include a demi-variable in the regression model, developed countries equals 1, in order to capture the impact on earnings management. Second, the authors can run different regression models between developed or developing countries, or to use an interaction term between the dummy of the developed countries and other control variables, such as the external financing. The interaction term between external financing and developing countries provides support to their paper's story, namely as regards the existence of a relationship between external financing and developing countries. In any case, I'm skeptical about the validity and the generalization of the results because the authors use 4,300 observations of the developed countries and only 231 observations of the developing countries. There are some minor comments in the presentation of the results. Authors must mention in the regression results that the constant term in the second model is significant. The t-test is 7.28. Furthermore, the ASDI coefficients in the third model has a t-value of 2.99 and therefore is also significant. Similar the Foreign known coefficients and the big four coefficients that has a significant impact, and much proposed to just to check the presentation of the statistical significance in order to truly capture the significance symbols. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was a really detailed discussant report. I'll just go back to our author. Would you like to respond to anything there? Is there anything you'd like to pick up on?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nikolaos, for very detailed comments. Clearly, I would need your PDF comments, that would be very helpful. I will certainly go back to my co-author so that we could discuss your comments and possibly a rerun of the regression models and a few other things included. Thank you.
I just